The Last Hope, Dead Zone Survival, possibly, and actually not possibly, the worst game that I think we've tested. It has been pulled from the Nintendo eShop
Oh
amid
no.
rumours that, yeah, oh no, it's a disaster.
Oh,
Amid
I didn't get a
reports,
chance.
amid reports that Nintendo was pressured by Sony to take it down, owing to certain similarities between this awful game and The Last of Us. John, you took point on the coverage for that disaster. It's one
yeah.
of our best performing videos of the year. I think it did have the unfortunate Streisand effect of drawing attention to it and making people buy it, because at one point we noted it was like number 4
I
on
know.
the Switch eShop
I mean, I
charts.
can kind of understand, like, when you see something that horrendous, you're just like, I've got to see what this is about.
It was in the UK. It was priced at 99p, so it was kind of like, what have you got to lose?
Yeah,
Right.
give it a shot. Why not?
How much was a War God Zeus of Child? Do you remember?
Oh, that was a bit more, I think.
Oh,
That cost a bit more. So, but here's the thing, right? If you bought that game, I believe you can still play it, right? So
yeah, I think so. I
but
think they
you
would have
probably
gotten
don't
away
want
with
to.
this if not for like literally using the Ellie model or like a rip-off budget version of the Ellie model
Without the eyeballs.
without the eyeballs. Like, just the fact that they put that asset in the game and used like the way they did the key art and stuff, I think that's what would have triggered it. Because everything else, like, it's not. I mean, the game
Yeah.
itself is obviously not a clone of The Last of Us. It's nothing like it. It's just this stupid thing where you run around like a single like city block and yeah, God, that stupid game.
Well, there are a lot of unanswered questions, aren't there, John? Like
Yeah,
specifically, how did it get onto the eShop? Did
yeah,
these guys have development kits? One would suspect so, right?
they
How
have
did
to.
it? How did it make its way onto the eShop in the first place? What was the sort of
Well,
QA procedure
as I
that
posted in my
Nintendo's had?
video, though, these guys had been putting out stuff for a while, and it's all equally terrible or similarly terrible. Like, this one feels even worse because it's extra buggy, and also like it just rips off of another game in some aspects. But all of their games like that, I can't even say, like the World War Battlefield Duty Heroes, whatever that it's called, like stuff like that. It's good Lord.
What your video highlighted is that they're not the only ones doing it,
No.
right? There's a whole bunch, there's a whole sort of seedy underbelly of really crappy Switch software that somehow
Yeah.
made its way onto the eShop. And I'd love to see an investigation
Yeah.
as to how this, what are the logistics of making it happen? Can we do it ourselves?
It's
You can do stuff on Unreal Engine.
Oh yeah, I
and
could make
Unity.
something on par with this and put it on the store if they let us. If we could figure out how these guys are doing it.
I loved the way you identified various assets from the asset
Oh yeah.
stores, like the
Hey, and
zombies.
like I said, nothing to knock the asset store. It's just the fact that it felt like they just picked all these random assets that don't actually fit together stylistically. They didn't integrate them well into the game. Like the fact that they just bought the lockpicking mini game like straight up, and then it just looks unlike anything else in the game because it is like a separate lockpicking mini game that somebody made and sold. And they just stick that in there. And the reason I say that, especially because like the lockpicking minigame had one type of lock modeled, and that type of lock didn't make sense for the types of doors you were using it on. Like you're picking the trunk of a police car twice. It's like, it doesn't look like a lock on a car. It's just that. So, and all the weapons and man, everything that they used in there and generating that city and everything. But I did enjoy doing the bullet economics of that game and determining what is or is not possible based on how the game works.
Well, yeah, but you had to derive your own. You had to make up your own entertainment.
Yes, that is true. It was, and also the way that you could so easily break the game with like all the flashing and glitching, which I determined eventually is if you load a game, run around, and then you quit back to the menu and start a new game. And once you start a new game, it causes the entire graphics engine to break. And once you get out to the street, and then if you try to enter any door at that point, and there's only one door you can enter because they lock every door except for the next one, it causes the game to crash back to the Switch OS. So it's a very easy to reproduce bug, and that was still in there.
It does remind me of one of my most hated gaming tropes, the locked door. where typically you're controlling these superpowered characters or characters with, armed to the teeth with massive explosive potential. But locked door, yeah, I won't bother going through there. There won't be anything behind that. I won't blast it open. I'll just move on.
That's what made stuff like Deus Ex so revolutionary at the time, right? Because it's like, oh, here's a locked door. If you have the tools, you can blow up the door. You can pick the lock. You can find another way around into that and then unlock the door. Like, it's like they presented those doors as a gameplay opportunity. And then, but games like this, it's like a lot of games do it. But yeah, this whole, like, all these doors are locked. But that game especially was bad because it was literally like you enter an area, you can go nowhere else except for in that very specific zone. They put up the invisible walls. There's only one door you can possibly enter. And then once you've left that room, you can never go back. Like how I pointed out, the trailer, which looked like the gameplay footage, but it said it wasn't representative. It was only not representative because they were in the library with the assault rifle and like the Molotov cocktails, which you couldn't actually have at that point in the game. But since you can't go back into that building at all, you could never recreate that scene. So, like, why did they even put that in the trailer?
Well, the trailer was another thing, right? It was completely unrepresentative of the game, which
it had voice acting and music, which,
man.
I mean, the game literally just had the one sound. It was just the sound of zombies, which sounded like snoring the whole time. Like, the whole time it was just that. It never stopped. It was relentless. It was that plus a few sound effects. And that's all you ever heard during the entire game. And it was just...
I do wonder, generally, if we hadn't covered it, if it would still be on the eShop.
Possibly.
It might have been.
Oh, something else I missed in the video that only was later brought to my attention, and I looked closely at it, is that all of the art, like the loading screen, the story screens, all those, they were all AI generated.
Oh, wow.
Which is... That just, like... That's the cherry on top.
It is,
Absolutely.
really is.
That's brilliant. Wow. So it's gone, but it'll never be forgotten, right, John?
No, it's too late. It was already out there, which means it's been archived somewhere. And, I am pro preservation. So
Well,
you would
even
think,
for this?
Yeah, even for this, just people must remember, never forget, right? I'm sure it's out there saved somewhere because the whole Switch eShop is basically like cracked wide open anyway, right? So somebody has archived this game. It is out there. You can probably play it on a Switch emulator right now if you want.
Fair enough.
If you want.
So there's not going to be too many people upset by the disappearance of this game, but it was 99p. There was a degree of macabre amusement to be had from playing it. But it has gone, and maybe that's for the best.